and welcome to the Voices of Persevere podcast. I'm Jake Shafer, your co-host today with Emma Graham, who I always love and enjoy. Emma, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm so great. I'm so glad to see you, and we are excited about the opportunity to introduce our audience to Amy Parks. Amy, say hello.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Good, good.
I'm
Amy,
so
thank you.
excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, for being a part of the podcast. Voices of Persevere is these are the stories behind the statistics, right? Um, Everyone who has been justice impacted, right? That's not just a data point. It's a story of um, encouragement and triumph and victory, and we want the world to know that. And so thank you so much for being with us today. Amy, how this is going to work is we're just going to have a conversation, and Emma and I are going to take turns kind of guiding that conversation along. I'm going to let Emma start in just a moment, but just thank you so much for being here and for being brave enough to share your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. All
We
right,
are.
Emma, you want to get us started?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was going to say, Amy, I'm super excited to be able to sit down with you. I've really been so pleased that some of the updates that I know that you continue to provide persevere. I feel so special to be included on those updates. And so when we made this happen, I just was so excited to have you on Voices of Persevere. I think you have a really incredible story. And so, if you don't mind, Amy, we are going to just kind of start from the beginning. So, when we met initially, you had described yourself as a walking contradiction. What did you mean by that? Give us a little insight into that.
So, everything in my life has always been like, there's no in between. It's either like, I'm either like way up here or like way down here. There's just no, I've never had any balance. That's
Mm,
what I lacked in my life. So, it was always like the go big or go home, no matter which way you were going. So, yeah, so I think I had shared with you about the one time, I had just finished my bachelor's degree working as a risk analyst, raising my 4 children to like within less than a year. I'm lost custody of my children. I'm homeless. I'm addicted to drugs. And so it's just that's been like my life's theme. Even as I was younger, I'm going to church and I'm going to mission trips and I'm doing all this. And then 6 months later, I'm drinking, getting high, and doing all these other things. So.
Yeah,
yeah.
no, absolutely. And you kind of touch on this in the next question that we had. And you talk about that, I guess, juxtaposition, right, of these times in your life where, you're raising your kids, you've got your bachelor's degree, you've got a great job. What does it look for you, or what does it feel like looking back on those two versions of yourself?
Um, how does it feel? It's crazy because as an addict myself, like, there's just no way for me to explain to my children, to you, to my sister, to my mom, to anyone how I could let that low version happen. Like, how could I have all this success and, people looking up to me as a mother and a mentor and then go so far down? But unless you're an addict, like, you just, you can't fully understand.
Yeah. No, I think that's
Yeah.
so true. Um, Definitely so true. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the things that you said, Amy, resonate with me. I'm also just as impacted, and there's just um, impulse control and all of the things right about being an addict. I wanna switch gears just a moment. When we visited the other day, you talked to us about um, just a really pivotal time in your life when you had the upcoming trial and you weren't sure how that was going to land, and you told us that you accepted a plea bargain instead of going to trial, and you mentioned to us that you had found a peace about that. Can you talk to us about what that was like? What was going on in your mind, and kind of where did that peace come from?
Yeah, well, I mean, the simple answer is the peace came from God. So,
Yeah.
whatever your higher power is, mine is 100% God. And He brought me through that time uh completely. And so, yes, I was planning to go to trial. My original charges are, pretty big charges, and they would have had to try me for that based on the statute of limitations. And so I felt pretty confident, but a few things happened, and I actually was originally supposed to get a year-long rehab and probation, but then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, I'm almost a year into county, and they were like, "No, you're gonna take 5 years in, 10 years out, or we're going to trial." And I was so terrified when I first got in of doing any time. But I had this peace that surpasses all understanding, like it says in Philippians, that this was where God was taking me. And I didn't share this with you before, but several years back, about 2017, I was living in a homeless shelter in Nashville, worst of the worst area. Literally, we were locked down one day because a guy just randomly was shooting people outside, like
Oh.
bad. So, and I was like, God, why? Like, why can't I do this? I need to get my kids back. And I'm not a crazy person, but I clearly heard him say for the first time in my life, like, maybe that's not your ultimate goal. And you will still have to go through all these things, prison, and, just walk through every walk of life to learn to love like I love. And I was like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't God, but here I am.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am.
Oh, go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
No, no, I'm just I'm I appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable with your story, so much. I'm also a person of faith, and um, I just appreciate you being bold enough to share that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And, kind of going back to talking about, addiction and what that looks like, you went into a rehab while you were inside prison. Is that correct? Am I remembering that from our first conversation?
Yes.
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 What shifted for you in that experience?
Okay. So, well, let me just say, when I first got to jail, like, I was a mess. I was scared. I mean, I was getting into fights. I was like just doing all the things, And I got moved to prison, and I was still a mess for the first couple months. And then they like pretty much immediately moved me to the long-term drug program dorm. And everybody's like, oh, dang. Cause that was like, everyone's like, oh man, that sucks. Everybody like, it's like just the impending doom. But that's your job for a year. And I'm the type of person that can't half do something or can't not do it. So I went back and forth for a little while, but in the end, even if I didn't feel like the classes or the instructors were providing me with what I needed, I went and sought that elsewhere. So I found my own writing assignments. I dug into God and the word, because at the end of the day, like one day, literally one day, I was just like, okay, I got to try this. Like I'm in prison. I'm getting older. Like, I need to get myself together. If I don't get myself together during this prison sentence, then I'm not going to. Because
Yeah.
for the first time in my life, I couldn't really worry about my kids. Like, you can, but if you worry in prison, you're just doing hard time. And my sister has my children, and she is an amazing mother, and I'm so blessed to have her. And I didn't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
And so it was time to worry about me. And that's where, as a mother, we forget that if we're not healthy, we're not clean, there's nothing we can do for our kids. Nothing positive.
No, I think that's so true. And, children should see their parents working hard, right? And being able to see them overcome tremendous challenges in life. Because at some point we're all going to face some sort of challenge. I know that it looks different for everybody. But for children to see, their parent and how they're overcoming that and how they are shifting things in their life, I think it's important. And one thing that I'm sure Jake probably is annoyed at me saying at this point, maybe not annoyed, but you mentioned just the attitude of being like a self-starter once you're there and you take that time to realize I need to make the most out of this experience. If I'm going to be here and do this time, I need to make the most out of these opportunities that are in front of me right now, and what can they do? And that's something that I think has been common with a lot of the Voices of Persevere that we've done is that kind of realization of, I need to take advantage of this while I can,
Yeah.
here. And if it's going to help push my life and move me forward, then that's gonna be the best thing for me. And Jake, if you're okay with me taking the next question, because this was actually something, Amy, in our initial conversation that really stood out to me, because I think it is so important. Especially as like as women, you talked about the concept of learning to be by yourself and being okay with that and what that means. Um, why was learning that so significant, and what did that unlock for you?
Okay. So this is like one of my favorite questions because it's so important for us women, especially. We tend to think, and a lot of us grow up with the concept that like we need a man to validate us.
Mhm.
And, my mom was a stay at home mom and my dad worked. And so, that was kind of like a concept that I struggled with growing up. And so for me personally, I always say that I have a terrible picker because I always pick the wrong men. And I'm like, I swear that I had like invisible application that was like, do you have tattoos? Yeah. Okay, great. Have you been arrested? Yeah. Okay, great. Like, are you an addict? Oh, perfect. So, would you like to go out? Like, what? So, um, and then I would get addicted to this concept of love and approval and acceptance. And I would stay when I should have left so long ago. And so I had to deal with emotional abuse, physical abuse. And, that started with my father. And I so that was like one of my main goals. When I decided that I was going to do this prison thing and I was going to get like an A plus and, success story, I focused. So my first goal was my mental health because if my mental health and my depression and my anxiety aren't under control, then that's it. And then second, to be by myself. So I did make friends and friendships in prison and they're so great and I still talk to them. I still have a group of people I message and it just brings me so much joy when they say that I bring them hope and that they're replying to my message while somebody's next to them reading a whole group of people my message is so cool. And three girls just called me yesterday from work release and they're all at work release together and they called me, all excited. But wasn't always with someone. I was with myself and God's word, and I had to learn that other people did not validate me. And it gave me such a peace. And it can still be a struggle, but getting out and not like so many girls were like, "Oh, I'm going to find me a rich husband. I'm just going to jump into a relationship with the first guy I see." And listen, I have had some like pitfalls where it's like, "Ooh, was that the best decision? Let me But at the end of the day, I don't need anybody. And actually to reiterate that, we'll say, my plans tonight after the podcast is actually to take myself to the beach and watch the sunset on Sanibel. So,
I love that. I love that. And I think, again, such an important message, and I appreciate you sharing that perspective. I think it's totally fine to desire those things and want those things, but partnership and relationship, but not at the cost of yourself. And it's trying to find the balance there, right? And it is a tricky place to be. So thank you for sharing kind of what you've done and how that transition has been for you.
Awesome, awesome. I want to segue into the next part of this because you're a Persevere graduate, and I'm so excited about sharing this part of your story. Amy, how did you find out about Persevere, and what made you want to participate when you heard about the program?
okay, well, for me, I can't remember. I like heard people talking about it, and I was like, at first I heard about like a computer, like it was just like this computer class. And I was kind of like, well, I mean, I've worked as an IT project manager, things like that. So I was like, well, it's probably not for me. And then I found out it was like actually coding and JavaScript, and I'm such a nerd, y'all, like such a nerd. And that was like literally the only piece of technology that I hadn't done. Like I didn't know how to code. I could make you think I knew how to code because I worked as a liaison between the programmers and the lawyers at the when I was a risk analyst, but I didn't know. And I'd always wanted to do websites and all these things, but like customize the websites, not WordPress.
Mm.
So I was like determined that I was going to get in. And like there were things that like literally tried to stop me. And I was just like, nope, nope, not happening. But so I constantly followed around and bothered one of the girls that was in the class already, and she like suggested some books, and so I bought them and was like reading them before, and then I got nervous because I didn't make the interview list, and
Oh.
I actually was getting released before the cohort ended, but I didn't let that deter me, so
Yeah,
Awesome.
that determination. I mean, it's important when coding as well, I think, just to be able to always have to get to
Yeah.
the root of whatever the bug is or the problem is.
yeah.
And you mentioned that, once you were in the program, you spent a lot of your time actually mentoring, tutoring, um, other classmates and students, and you had phrased it and said that it's almost like God had redirected you, redirected what you had planned to do. How did that feel, and what did that teach you in that time?
Okay, so what's important to know here is again, like my whole life has been unbalanced. And I've craved balance and needed balance, but I didn't know how to get it. So in prison, in the beginning, I had to just work on me. There was nothing else I could do. When I left the drug rehab program, I was in the kitchen for a while and I was still like, I have to work on me. And then only when I felt like I was okay with me did I venture out and become a GED teacher and things like that. And so when I got into Persevere, which it was hard to leave being a GED teacher, so rewarding. But when I first got into Persevere, like I kind of went back into that, okay, this is about me. Like this is to set me up for the future. And I started doing the class and I did really well. I'm very book smart, don't common sense, but book smart, yes. So I was going like pretty fast and stuff. And so I'm like, well, I get out first and I have to be ahead because I have to finish the class early. And so I was like, people was asking for help and like I wouldn't say no, but sometimes I would like kind of rush it and but I have been always told that I am a good teacher and so I would help. But then I kind of was like really in my feelings. Okay. So I'm like, listen, God, like I can build like a super good portfolio because I'm so far ahead. So like I can build this awesome portfolio that I will have when I leave here. And he was kind of like, because I already had this job lined up with a ministry. And so he was, he was kind of like, okay, but you still are going to have time when you get out. Like, you have a job already. Like, so I was like, fine. So I ended up, um, not quite half my time, but I did devote, I tried to devote a couple days a week just to like working with the girls and getting them caught up. Um, and it was so rewarding. And they were all messaging me, we got our certificate even after you left.
There you go. There you go. It just shows the impact right there.
So following up on that, right? You got out, and then you told us the other day that within days the job that you thought you had was gone. So just walk us through that moment and what did you do next?
Yeah, so it was like within 2 or 3 weeks, I got out to work for the ministry and, all I'll really say is, it seemed like he was having beginning stages of dementia or something like that before I got out, because this was a family friend. I didn't realize how bad it was, and it ended up being a very unhealthy situation. But before I could find another job, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna close the ministry, let you go." And I
Oh.
was like, "Wait, you've been telling me for a year, like this is what I'm doing." And and I was like, "God, like you brought me back to Lee County, Fort Myers, where I got arrested, where where this crime happened, where I grew up. Like, why?" But there was not time for self pity. The first thing I did was call my sponsor. I'm very active in AA, and I called my mom, and we talked through it. And then I called Persevere. I called my case manager, and I contacted Russell and my teacher, and like just everyone. Like, hey, listen, I'm looking for employment now, and they just like jumped right in and were like doing everything they can. Like they were willing to like call companies that I wanted to apply for and like talk to them for me. Like, listen, like, like this is the deal. And so it was just so cool. I but I also am like super determined. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. So, I did not let it deter me. The next day I was up and I had no car, no nothing. So I was walking. I got a bus pass and I made sure that I had a job that first day. So I got offered a job. It would have been fine, but it was, like a smoky bar, and I hate cigarettes now. And but he was willing to give me a chance, and I just like laid it all out there. So that was really cool of him. And then I went into another place, and they said they weren't hiring front of house positions. So I was like, "Oh, okay, no problem. I actually can't cook, but I'll wash dishes. No problem." So he was like, "Oh." He's like, "Well, you know what? Why don't you come back tomorrow for an interview?" And I was like, "Okay." So I thought I was like interviewing for a dishwasher position. And I was like, "Cool. Like I'm going to have this job and at least there's not cigarette smoke everywhere. Maybe I can do both." It ended up being for a hostess position. um, and so I did get offered that too, but then I was applying on Indeed. Um, and I ended up getting a job offer as a temp employee, a project manager assistant for a construction company that's helping to build an Amazon distribution center. So it was like kind of more up my alley. So I took that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your determination comes across at least so clearly, just
Yeah.
us having these conversations. And determination will get you a lot, right?
Yes.
Definitely not always easy, but that's the point. You keep pushing forward. And, with this, job that you got, I want to ask you about something that I think probably many people who have been justice involved have a fear about. And this happened to you. And
Yes.
that was that someone had tried to, kind of found out about your past and had tried to use that in your workplace, and sent that to HR and others. And you had said it was one of the most vulnerable moments. How did you get through that? How did you face that vulnerability? If you could talk us through that would be great.
Yes. So my literally my biggest fear, anyone that was in prison with me can tell you that my biggest insecurity and biggest fear was me getting out and people Googling me. Uh I was arrested and I just feel like led to just go ahead and say this if it's okay. But I was arrested for murder. I was arrested for, and the news makes it sound, if you Google me, the news will tell you that I killed 2 people in cold blood. So when this young lady, got a vendetta against me, decided she wanted to sabotage me, she, conveniently pulled the news article with my mugshot and sent it to the owner of the company, the president, HR, even the contractor who we're subcontracted through right now to do the Amazon building, like everyone. And so I, that again, my biggest fear, right? And so I how do I say, a lot happened, but in the end, I found out this the girl was I had to block like 4 different phone numbers from this young lady and all these things, but here's the thing. I learned in prison not to engage. That not every reaction needs a response. And that is so hard. So
Mm.
hard. So when I got out, that meant that I learned to block people that weren't positive in my life. And so I've never to this day responded to this young lady. She has called probation officers. She has continued, their harassment. But in the end, I just kept working. Like I just kept doing my job. Um, HR ultimately pulled my background check and actually like kind of apologized because there was one reaction that was kind of like a little over the top and that person came back and apologizing, oh, like I got your background check back and there's really not much on it. It's still a horrible situation. 2 people did lose their lives and I hesitate to talk too much. Um because the victims' families are gonna be hurting forever,
Yeah.
and it's hard to
Yeah.
even showcase, like, my success and story knowing that how much they're still hurting.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, so, ultimately, though, it totally backfired, okay? So, I didn't respond. As, my work says, I remained completely professional through the whole situation. And now I've been offered this full-time position, um, making, like, such good money, like, it's just crazy, and, you know, it's just crazy.
Yeah, being able to rebuild. And I think I mean, it's so notable you talk about not every reaction, deserves a response. And it's how if those situations are going to come up and to happen, it's how we respond to those situations that
Uh-huh.
are going to determine what the outcome looks like, right? So thank you for sharing that because I think that is probably a fear and anxiety that so many people who have been justice involved have when they are out and they are
Yes.
Yeah.
um, navigating their new normal. So
Yeah. For sure. For sure. So, uh, Amy, it's just, it's absolutely fascinating. So, um, you found yourself in an addictive cycle, some really serious charges. You get out within 3 months of release. You have your own car that you bought with money that you had earned, and now you're earning over 6 figures. but you said something really important when we visited that I loved and appreciated. You said that if you hadn't been through prison, you might not have had the emotional tools that you have now, which have led you to where you are, um, emotionally, maturely, and just professionally. Can you just talk to us about that? Just walk us through what that means?
Yeah, sure. So in prison, like you either learn discipline and you learn to let things like roll off your shoulders, or you do hard time, like I said before. Uh,
Yeah.
yes, the line for chow can be incredibly long and incredibly slow. But there's no reason to complain about it the whole time. And there's no reason to literally let it like freak you out because it is what it is. We cannot change this. So either do it or eat a ramen noodle. But that has carried throughout my life. And that was another thing in prison that I was like, I will not let things bother me. I will not let things bother me. It was like a mantra. And other people noticed it too. Like, how are you so calm, like peaceful? And so, I got to, share that because, um, so that, I just kind of, that was a huge thing, but also, persevere was a huge thing. Like, it taught me discipline, like, going to class every day was kinda, like, getting me back into the routine of the 9 to 5, showing up when I didn't want to, and just, keeping focused, and so that's really carried out, into what life is like
Yeah.
now because before I probably would have like ran, like I would have quit the job and like ran before I got fired or like all these things and I just kept working, like I did put a couple apps in Indeed on the side, just to be safe, but I just kept doing what I do and yeah, I've had like ridiculous amount of success. Like you said, yeah, six figure less than 6 months out, and I just, like the only reason I even share that is just because, like, I wanna give people hope, uh, because it's it can happen, like, we heard somebody talk in Persevere about, like, within a couple years or a year, like, making, like, almost, 200,000 a year, and I wanted it to be me, but was it gonna be me? Like, no. And then here I am less than 6 months okay, yesterday was my 6 months out of prison, and,
Awesome.
yay! And I'm making 124,000 a year. And, it's not me, like, it's so God and just, like, doing the next right thing. That's it. Not using, doing the next right thing. Do I always do the next right thing? Absolutely not. Okay? Absolutely not. But I try to reflect and, take a step back when I don't feel like I'm doing the next right thing. And I'm always like, just, kind of trying to move forward no matter what happens. So I sometimes can't even believe what's happening to me. I gave my son my old car. I bought that car within like 2.5 months of being out of prison. And I'll be traveling. So I just bought a beautiful Camry. I love her. And I think I shared with you guys, I thought the dealership was gonna, like, kick me out any second
Yeah.
and be like, "We're not financing you." But, yeah, so I put a nice down payment down and gave my son that car. He just turned 18, so I got to give him his first car. That's, like, probably, like, the most exciting thing that's happened to me since I got out of prison, honestly, is being able to do that. But, yeah, so
I love that. I love that. And you had mentioned persevere, and you had mentioned having a speaker come to class, and all of those things. And for someone who's sitting in a persevere classroom right now, you know, wondering what their next is going to look like or what it can look like, right? What do you want them to know?
okay, so, I think, like, the main thing is realizing that, like, okay, so I remember like in there thinking like, is this gonna help me at all? Like, really? Like, cause who the heck is gonna wanna hire a felon just out of prison? Especially me. And um and the thing is like, yes, Persevere taught me coding, but listen, guys, if you're in class and you're struggling, coding is not the most important part, like at all, at all. Sorry, Mr. D, sorry, coding teachers, but it's just not. Is learning it helpful and can it you use it in your life? Yes. But what Persevere teaches you, and this is so important, is discipline, focus, showing up. Even when you're not confident, you don't feel like showing up, when you don't feel like you can do it, like you show up. And
Yeah.
we kind of have to do that in prison a lot of times because they'll be like, oh, you don't want to show up? Okay, well, do it again and you're going to go to confinement. But honestly, looking back, like some of you are probably like, I do not like this girl right now, but it's actually good because forcing me to show up has helped me to where I love my job and I want to show up every day.
Yeah.
So,
It's
I
great.
love that.
Great answer. There are so many more aspects than just the technical education piece, right?
Yes.
So it's great.
Yes, for sure. So, Amy, as we come to a close, what does I mean, you've already come so far so fast. What does the next chapter look like for Amy Parks?
ooh, okay. So the next chapter. Um, so I don't I don't know, but I do want to say one thing though, because next chapter made me think of it is I was in Persevere and a lot of us like our dream was to get into the next chapter boot camp.
Mhm.
And I was actually accepted to the next
Awesome.
chapter boot camp. Such an honor. Like
Yeah.
such an honor. Like,
Yeah.
it ended up that my job did at the same time offer me the salary, and so I turned it down. Felt like it maybe wasn't right for me at that moment. But
Yeah.
so just if you're in Persevere, they tell you how competitive it is and things like that. But like, I got it. So the next chapter for me, I don't know. I mean, I know what I do know is that the next chapter has a relationship with my children and that continues to grow. What that looks like, I don't know right yet. They're still a little hesitant to talk to me, and that's okay. That's okay. I just keep, doing what I can and helping my sister and rebuilding that relationship with her, which is going amazing. So I will be traveling, so I'm a little nervous, but I just want to, right now the company I'm at has embraced me and supported me and encouraged me, just like Persevere, really. It's amazing, like how much support. Like I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. And so for now, my indefinite future is, being the best human resource and project manager in construction that I can be and just taking it one day at a time.
Yeah.
I love
Because,
that.
That's great.
let me say one more thing. So I was actually talking to somebody earlier and they were like, and it's kind of intimidating to hear how far you've come. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm intimidated too by myself. Like, I'm just out here like faking it till I make it, like I still have imposter syndrome. I'm like nowhere near like the confident person and that everybody thinks I am. But that's the thing is, like every day I grow a little bit more and I just try to be the best I can today.
I love that. And if you are faking it, you're fooling me. So the confidence, because the way, like you said, just that determination, your aura, it's all. I mean, just it's been wonderful to get to know you, Amy. And I think the imposter syndrome hits all of us, but one thing that I have just seen from you is obviously your drive, your capabilities. I wouldn't doubt yourself for a second. I know that's easier said than done, but we just really appreciate this opportunity that you gave us to talk to you and hear more about your story and share your insights.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Like, it's really an honor.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, just echoing everything that Emma said. Absolutely a pleasure to hear your story, to celebrate your victories with you, and to look forward to many more of those victories when we hear about how great Amy is doing and how she is giving hope to other people. So thank you so, so much. If you're listening and you heard Amy's story today and it makes you ask questions or you're interested in learning more about Persevere, you can visit us at perseverenow. That's perseverenow.org. And we'll connect you if you're interested in becoming a student, if you're interested in supporting the program. We would love to connect you. Guys, I cannot tell you how honored I was to be a part of this today. Amy, thank you again. Emma, it is always a true pleasure to be with you. And guys, I hope you have a great day.
Yes, yes,
Thank
you as well.
you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for
Bye.
Bye, guys.